The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation, which is, of course, my FTCU workshop number 1. And it's our class is called Quick Start class number 4. Anyway, you guys, it's me, Trevor Conquergood, here from Sunset Stitches in sunny Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I'm excited to be recording today's class. This is the 4th class that I've done kind of this in the year 2021 that are meant to be kind of like the new and updated quick start guide, the best place to start for new people with the Floriani software. And we've already done class 1, 2, and 3, and we've gone through all the most important stuff. And so I've sort of saved some of the kind of cool stuff and important things to learn about, but not necessarily the everyday stuff, and that's so today's class will be a lot of fun, I think, for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. As always, you guys are welcome to email me for help or questions or support for downloading classes, that kind of stuff. My email is trevor@sunsetstitches.com. And I need to give a quick shout out to my mom, Wendy, because a lot of times you'll get a response to Trevor at Sunset Stitches from my mom, Wendy Conquergood. So if you've missed a class download and my mom gets back to you, then thanks, Mom, for helping me out. Anyways, you guys, as you know, today's class is part of my workshop number 1, and all people who are part of workshop number 1 will get to download today's class. I am going to share this class on my YouTube channel so that people that are not part of the workshop can also see today's class. But just so you know, these are all of the classes that if you are a member of workshop number 1, then you should have downloaded all of these classes. This is today's class right here. Oh, it says Quick Start 3, but that should be a 4. Anyway, today's date, June 22nd, 2021. We've just had kind of about 6 new classes this year, right? Class 14 and 15, and the new exciting kind of challenge review class that we had there a couple weeks ago, and then this quick start series. So those are, if you haven't downloaded everything from workshop number 1 and you're a member and you feel like you're not up to date, you got to email me and I'll help you get the downloads. For people that are doing workshop number 2, these are the downloads that you need to collect. There's actually 1, 2, 3, and then the last one is called Fusion Workshop. And the Fusion Workshop came, if anybody purchased the Fusion software, that's the Floriani kind of entry-level embroidery software. Maybe they got it with a new embroidery machine. Either way, when they activated it, Floriani gave them membership to a cool set of classes. So what I said was anybody who bought Workshop 1, 2, and 3 could get a copy of the Fusion Workshop for no extra cost. And so if you don't have them all, you can collect them as you go. But these are the classes of Workshop 2. And these are the classes of Workshop 3. And so I may add some new classes to Workshop 2 and 3 yet this year. So I haven't got dates planned for that yet, but that's kind of in my mind. So, and those are the classes for the Fusion Workshop and everything. So yeah, if you guys are following along and you've got it all, thank you so very, very much. The only other thing that I have made that you might have collected is my embroidery club. And so with the embroidery club, we've got season 1 and season 2. Season 1 is totally complete. And if you were to purchase that, you would download it kind of all at one time. And season 2 is about, we're on the second half of the season now. So if you are a member of season 2, you would have downloaded the first kind of half of the season and you'd get the other half as they get released. So that's the way we're at. Anyway, you guys, thanks so much for listening, and let's get on with today's class. So the first topic for today's class is the thread chart creator. And so this is what I'm talking about. These aren't things that you have to do every day, but if you've never learned about them, they're great to know about, and really part of, I guess, customizing your software. So yeah, I'm just going to check the questions box to make sure everything looks good and sounds good before we get too far into class. Lucinda says, please remember to put your little yellow focus on your mouse. And so thanks for the reminder, Lucinda. I got that on there. And hi, Joanne and Linda and Lisa and Beverly and Lane. Everybody, good afternoon. Thanks so much. So, okay, well, you can use that questions box as part of the GoToWebinar control panel to communicate with me during today's class. And I'm not necessarily looking for a lot of new topics for today's class, but if you have any comments or questions about these topics, then please go ahead and ask them and I'll check on you guys from time to time. Okay, so thread chart creator, that's where we're going to start. I'm going to pop into the Floriani software, and where this is found is under the tools drop down menu where it says thread chart creator. Now, before I bring it up, I'm just going to point out what it kind of does. You see, when you start your software, it's always going to have whatever your last used thread chart is. And you can change your thread chart with the button right here. So when you click on there, it'll give you a whole variety of different thread charts to choose from. And so I guess what we're saying is you can create your own. And so as an example of that, I've got the My 48 thread chart. So basically what I did was I kind of counted across the bottom of my screen how many little squares were there. And then I decided that I had room for about 48 colors or something like that. And so I went and picked my favorite 48 colors. So if you want to make a thread chart that represents, whenever I do roses, I just need these colors. You could have your rose thread chart, or there could be any number of reasons to create a custom thread chart. But I made this one, and I kind of tried to make it in a little bit of a kind of a rainbowish pattern like that. And so maybe I can explain how I did all this. So the tool comes from the tools drop down menu where it says thread chart creator. And so you click on that, and I guess you have the ability to either start a new one, open one, save one, or delete one. So if I click on delete, it actually kind of shows me all the ones that I've ever made, right? So apparently I've got one that's called Copper Test, and I don't want it anymore. And so I can just click on it and click delete, and that will allow me to get rid of a color palette that I already created that I don't want. Now, if I want to create a new one, I click on new, and then it gives me kind of a new blank palette, new color palette, and I can come in here and give it a name, right? Let's call it FTCU W01 QS, that's not an S, 04. So that's the name of today's class. So we're making a thread chart specifically for today's class. And we're probably going to want to add some colors to that, right? So I can either import those colors from other thread charts or click on add a color. Now, if I do add a color, excuse me, it allows you to add a color based upon your color wheel on the side over here, over yonder. And so notice how I can kind of move this little dot anywhere on my color wheel. And so I guess, I'm not going to go into how the color wheel works today, but basically as I move this around, you can see the RGB numbers. And let's just say you knew the RGB numbers. You could actually come in here and be like, no, it's 207. And then it's, 168, and I have no idea what this makes, but I'm going to type it in 168, and then let's make the 35 a 10. And then, so that's a color, that you could make and record 207, 168, 10, and it's right there on the color wheel. And now and so anyway, we've added a color. If you want to add another color, you click on add color, and it starts a new one. And so now you're back to square one, and you'll be like, yeah, I need some more greens. And so you say add color, and I need another green. And so we're doing, leaves, and you're picking shades of green to do and you're going to make a color palette just for your design even. This is the kind of fun you could have with it, I guess. So anyway, you create colors with the add color and these sort of values. And you can tell that what name it's going to be, right? Because I didn't give these any color names, so you get to be creative and name your own colors. The aqua seaman blue. Anyway. Aqua seaman blue, green, because that's not really a blue. And then so at any point you can click save, and it's going to save that color palette with that name and everything. Now, when you click on import, it allows you to browse through your thread palette. So if you're like, well, I own Floriani colors, so I'm going to pull up the Floriani poly palette. And then I'm like, well, I need some oranges to go with those greens. And so I'm going to import that orange and that red and maybe, another kind of sandy color or something like that. And so, yeah, you could go through and let's just say you had multiple brands of thread. You could now pull up another brand of thread, say, well, I also own some of that King Star thread or whatever it is, and click on, I like this sandy too, and I'll add that to my color palette. And so now when I'm done doing all this, I've actually created a color palette that has not only colors that I created from scratch, but colors from my Floriani threads and colors from my Kingstar threads or whatever it is that you own. And so this is where you create your color palette. And you can come and create as many as you want. And like I showed you, you can delete them as well. So when you have a color palette, and I will say more, I'm going to open that up again in a minute. So now I can come here to the thread chart and I can look for it, right? Oh, FTCU W01 QS04. There's that custom thread chart. So that's kind of a unique thing about the software. I wouldn't say you need to do that for every design because there's another way to do that. As you may or may not know, when you have here, let's just go back to having like a big chart. Like let's say Floriani Poly, you can right click and add a design to your palette, right? And like say, I'm going to use this orange and I'm going to use that orange and I'm going to use this red. So those are designs that I've added to a design palette that are kind of ready to go so that if we start designing and making shapes, I can, you know, quickly have those designs will always sort of be available, those colors available to me. So that's a different way of approaching colors. But coming back to tools and thread chart creator, so open. So how did I make the one that said my 48? And by the way, I'll share that one with you guys in today's class so that you, if you don't already have my rainbow color palette, you can get it. So here I just opened it up. And this is the trick to making it rainbow. And it's, you know, perhaps something that we can enhance in the future with the software. But the way it is today is the first color that you import goes in the beginning. And the last color that you import goes in the end. And so if you want to make a rainbow out of 48 colors, you actually need to pick them ahead of time so that you can add them to the chart in order. What I'm saying is there's no ability to rearrange them. And so that's something that maybe someday we'll get as a, you know, it's been requested more than once, let's put it that way. But as it is right now, if you want to control the sequence of the colors, it's basically add them in the sequence that you want. That's kind of how they get made. And so there's my 48 thread chart, and you can see kind of that I added one color at a time. If I add another color right now, if I say add another color and it's like I need more, I forgot about, you know, neon green or something like that. And so I've said add color, and that means I'm going to create a color from my color wheel over here. But if I was like, oh, I meant to get a thread color because I don't want to do that. So I can select on this one and say remove color. You know, so you can also take colors off of your palette if you don't wish them to be there. But if I say import, and then I go back to, let's say, the Floriani Poly again, you could, you know, look for new colors to add to your collection. Oh, here I need to scroll up to get Floriani. Sorry, I was got to look with my eyes, and say, well, you know what, that was great with the whites, but I don't think I have enough silvers or enough grays or something like that. So I'm going to add one of those to the end of it. Now I've got an extra silver at the end. And so then I need to say save to update my color palette and then exit. And now if I pull up my color palette, it will be all updated. So yeah, go ahead and create your own color palettes. I think you'll find that that's kind of the cool thing about it. And so notice now there's a new delicate pearl, you know, in my collection that I could, you know, immediately digitize and use. Or I could even, like I said earlier, right click and say add design palette, which puts that gray. It's hard to tell because I think it's almost like the color of the background, that it's right there in the software. See, my 48 is the name of the thread palette. So, okay, you guys, if you have any questions about making thread palettes, I'll just check and see what you guys are talking about and we'll move on from here. So thank you for your questions. Kimberly's here and she's looking forward to class. Nice to see you, Kim. Can I take a text file, give a new extension, and add the correct? Okay, hold on. Let me make this bigger so I can get all the text that you're writing out there. Sorry, I'm not seeing all of the question. Give it a new extension, add to the correct folder in the software. So that's correct, Joanne, and I'll talk about that for you. That's a good question to try and make sense. So Trevor, Suzanne's been gifted some rayon thread. If the brand name is not in our charts, you're not going to be able to click on the like import from another thread chart. But let's just say that somebody gave you a text file. Like that's what Joanne's asking me is if I've got a text file, maybe you've got another brand of thread and they can give you an RGB list. Then that is totally something that we can do. It's a little bit techie, but I'm totally willing to go there, you guys. So hi, Cheryl, little Saskatoon friend in the house. Nice to see you guys. Is there a limit to the number of thread palettes? Not that I'm aware of, Brenda, but if you run into anything, let me know. And can create and save. No, as far as I know, there's no limit. It might junk up your little list when you pop it up, make it really long, but as far as I know, you can make as many as you want. Okay, so good question. So the answer to the one was about could you do it manually? And we actually looked at this already. If you were if we were to figure out which class it was, the first time we went around this horn way back in the beginning of workshop number 1, I remember showing how to do this. So let me see what we're talking about. First of all, I'm going to have to use my Windows Explorer, and I'm going to have to browse to my C drive. And I'm going to have to go into what's known as program data, and notice that that may be a hidden file. Like if you're unable to find that somewhere, notice when I'm in Windows, if I go to the View tab up top here, and it says hidden items, and I have mine checked off to see, because program data may be even hidden from you by your computer, and that's how you could tell Windows to show it to you, is use your Windows Explorer on the View tab and tell it to show you hidden items. All right, now I'm going to go into that program data, and I'm going to look for Floriani. And it's the TCU folder. Now, I need thread charts. That's going to be it. So we find our thread chart little collection as you're describing. So this is where they go. This is where, when you make one, this is where it will be. And so I should be able to look and find the my48.thr. Now, this is the trick that Joanne asked, can you do? And I'll show you exactly how to do it. Right click, and let's just say copy. And then I'm going to save it on my desktop so that it's somewhere not there. Paste it. And then I'm going to rename it. So this is like a new copy of the same file that we have already in the software. And I'm going to change not the name of it, but the extension from THR to TXT. And I'm going to hit enter, and this Windows is going to warn me. Are you sure you want to do that? And yes, I know what I'm doing. And so now I've got a file that's a TXT plain Windows text file. And I can right click and say open with Notepad. And when I open it with Notepad, look, you can see the raw data. There's your RGB numbers. So the first number looks to be the thread number. Does that make sense? And then it's the RGB, and then it's the name. And you could modify this if you had. Anyway, it needs to have this extra little bit at the front. So if you're trying to create one from scratch, you may need to make it say some extra stuff, copy and paste from an old one and kind of edit in a new one. But what I'm telling you is this is that delicate pearl that we just added. And if you wanted to, you could like copy and paste this and have 2 delicate pearls. Like, let me show you. I'll just take that old world bluff and then use copy. And so let's enter just to prove this works and paste. So now we've got Old World Bluff, but call it Old World Bluff 2 plus. I don't know if you can put pluses, but we'll try. And then we'll save it. And we'll close this text file. And we'll look on our desktop and we'll go right click and say rename and change the TXT back to a THR, enter, and once again, yes, I know what I'm doing. Now I'm going to take that, and actually what I will do is rename it again and call it my 49. I don't know. This time I don't get hassled because I'm not changing the extension, just the part in front of it. So one way or another, I'm going to copy that. And we're going to go back into the little rabbit hole. So remember where we found all this: C drive, program data, and then Floriani, TCU, and thread charts. And right click and paste. So now we've got a new one in here called My 49 and close. Now I'm not positive if it will just instantly be here. I may have to restart. Let's see. Yeah, see how there's no My 49? So fine, close it. And then I'll start it up again and you'll see it'll come right back. So good question. Thank you for adding that to today's class, Joanne. I'm gonna kind of queue up for next topic. So the next one's also kind of a chart creator, but instead of for thread charts, it's for the color play tool. Yeah. So all right, just to prove that what we just did worked, I click on the thread chart creator and I look for one in here that should be called My 49, and My 49 will now have 2 extra little colors at the end, and this one's Old World Buff 2. Right? So you can come in here and change. You could totally go in and make your own thread chart with funky names, whatever you want, funky numbers, give your own names, numbers, totally do it if you want to. So that's how you do it. Now, so the next topic is similar, and it shouldn't take too long to go through this one. It's color play theme creator. So first of all, what's a color play theme, right? Thread charts are obvious, but what's a color play theme? So maybe we want to open a design. I'll just look in kind of, well, here the go-to menus in my way. There we go. Get a design on your screen. And so this fantasy bird has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors, whatever. And they're all kind of like shades of blue, right? So if you wanted to use the color play, this is up here, color play. Color play will allow you to choose a theme and recolor your design. Now you can lighten it, darken it, tint it, randomize it. If I just click randomize, it's like at random picking new colors for your design. And who knows, you might find a really interesting, like, wow, I love it. That's the best bird yet, and you're trying new colorways to, create design complements. Of course, you always have undo if you're like, what the heck did you do? But you can click on the tool up here and choose a theme. So now when I click on the tool, if I choose for a theme, these are all the themes that the software comes with, but you can create your own themes. And so that's what this segment is about, is how to create a theme for that. So when you click on the tools drop-down menu, notice where it says Color Play Theme Creator. Same idea, right? You start on that. Now the Color Play Theme Creator, you can first of all edit the Color Play themes that you already have, or you can create on a new theme, right? So just give it a new theme. We'll call it FTCU W01 QS04. That's today's class. And then say, okay, so now we have this like brand new color play theme. It has no colors. So what color chart do you want your theme based upon, right? Go, well, obviously I want to base it on the My 49 color chart. And then I'm like, well, so I want to be able to take designs and have them coded into specific colors. So I'm going to do the red, and then I'm going to do the orange, and then I'm going to do the yellow, and then maybe a light green, and a medium green, and a blue or two, and kind of like a burgundy and a light purple. You get the idea, right? So pick up, and there you have it. So I've created a theme. It's for today's, and say save. So that'll like save it. You can new theme or save your theme if you're making edits to them. And so the idea is, now if you click on your design and you go to your color play tool, not only can you lighten it or darken it or randomize it, you can choose a theme, and then the theme is going to have the name of today's class. So it's going to be right here, FTCU W01 QS04. I'm not exactly sure what order that is. I think it's like the ones that it came with. To be honest, I'm not even sure if yellow, blue, brown, green. Maybe it's just the order you made them. No, because I didn't make that last. Did I edit a theme? Anyway, no, I think I started a new theme. I don't know how they get that sequence, to be honest. But it's not hard to find the one I made. There aren't that many. So now I've got this color play theme. And so the theme I can like try. Oh, okay. Anyway, this is the theme that we just created with the colors that were on our color palette, and you can go and like randomize. Okay, so another thing you can do is say what colors are affected, right? So if we're like, okay, how about just reset for a minute and be like, actually, I don't want to affect the light blue and I don't want to affect the blue or the Indian Ocean. So I really just want to try different purples and limes or something like that. And so now you can just darken those colors or lighten those colors or randomize just those colors until you're like, hey, I never thought of trying it with sandy, or burgundy's nice too, and even pink, and and eventually you're like, that's it. And so now you recolor ways your dye. Anyway, it's called the color, what is it called again? The color play tool, and you can make your own themes. And these are things that are, like I said, not everyday tools, but kind of fun things to learn about and ways that you can customize the software. So yeah, are there any questions about that? Because otherwise we're going to kind of cruise right on by. I would like to export my embroidery files to Electric Quilt. Wants EXP. Can I make EXP in FTCU? Well, of course you could make EXP in FTCU. That's right. I will show you guys that before. Can you move a color from the bottom up using the method by going into yeah. So Linda, yes. If the question Linda asked me was, with the method I just showed you guys about raw editing your TXT, your THR file into a TXT and back again, that would be another way that you could kind of go, okay, now I'm going to sort the colors out. Sure. If you're willing to do a little extra work, that's a good suggestion. The only thing about exporting files to EQ, and I don't know too much about that. I'm not an EQ expert, but I know it's another software, and EXP is fine. You can save to EXP. It's not my favorite format because it doesn't save the colors. That's the only thing I was going to say was when I save this design, if I go file and save as, yes, I can choose EXP. And just so you know, we have put in a request to see if we can get our EXP format updated, but save as EXP is totally one of the options. The only thing is it puts in color stops and not color reference numbers. Whereas if you chose something like maybe PES, see if your EQ will open up PES. That might be an option that was better because it allows you to remember colors. It'll know the colors that you saved in your software when you reopen it again. There's other formats that can do that, not just PES. I'm just saying the one you asked about is one that I know currently doesn't do it. But maybe we can get it updated in the future. It's an old format is why that came from kind of the old commercial days and it needs to be updated. Okay, so the next topic, just looking at my notes here. Cruising right along, or today's class will get kind of long like always, is manage sequence notes. And so this is another one of those things that you may have never even noticed before, but it's kind of cool. And certainly for a professional that does a lot of sharing of files, making of design sheets. I mean, to me, FTCU provides the most amazing user experience for sharing your work. I love so many things about it. So let's just say that we were creating this cool little design and we were going to share it with our friends, but we wanted our friends to know something. Go to your notes tab. This is the one we made for Dad on his, 100th birthday. The colors are special because of the anniversary, you know what I mean? And it's notes that you might have the same design saved, Fantasy Bird dash Dad's birthday, and you could have Fantasy Bird dash baby's first birthday and use the same design and have different notes to yourself, different purposes of it. So I love that about Floriani, the fact that we can, when we save a file save as, when we save to our desktop, the WAF, we're going to call it, bird one WAF. So it's on my desktop, bird one WAF, and it says in there that it was made for Dad on his 100th birthday. It'll always say that anytime I open it. Those notes will be there. And that's really a cool thing about it. So now that's not necessarily the topic, though. The topic is how you can manage your sequence notes. Now, what are sequence notes? So as an example, let's just make this into an applique patch. So why don't I take my ellipse tool and draw a little ellipse shape to go around it. And then select the ellipse and make it an applique. So the reason I thought of applique is that applique, when you use the applique tool, the software inserts sequence notes. See them right there? Stop. Before proceeding, place the applique fabric down. Then after the next color, stop. Before proceeding, cut the excess fabric from around this line. Those are notes that we put in when we do appliques for you. And if you go file and print preview and you make a print preview, those notes show up. Look, here's the notes. This is the one that we made for Dad's 100th birthday. It's right there on the bottom of the first page. On the second page where I've got the sequence coming up, it's got all the colors that are in the design, little legend of where those colors go. And then those notes show up in between the colors as need be. So that's what we're talking about, sequence notes. So then the cool thing to look at today is under the Tools drop-down menu, down here at the bottom where it says Manage Sequence Notes. When I click on Manage Sequence Notes, I get a little window. And so the first thing I might want to do is make a note. Okay, so let's just imagine that we do a lot of earrings made of lace. And you need to put the mylar down. This is the time in the design where you add the mylar. Tape it down over the mesh. Fill. Something like that. It's a note. And you could add that into the design individually. But what we're doing here is we're making it as a note that we can save it. So this is the mylar note. And we say, okay. And so if you want to do another one, click new. Oh, so new, what are you going to call it? We'll call this one, so this is going to, mylar 2. Mylar 2. Okay. And so now we've got another one and we'll say, this is the place to add the second mylar. Or whatever you want, right? And you add so what I'm doing now, so save mylar 2, okay. Sort of like updating it, right? Because you can also pull them up and go, okay, my mylar note needs to be edited and hit save, or my mylar 2. So notice that I now have 2 notes. And I can, if I close this, so now you're digitizing. You're making your own new design and you've got 3 colors in your design and it's like the first color. So here we go. We're going to get a shape and we're going to make it into a lace earring. So you get your little apple and you click on your copy and paste and paste. And so the first one is going to be a mesh fill background. And so you click on mesh fill and you choose a pattern that has like 2 layers of mesh to kind of do a good job of capturing the mylar in, making it kind of a freestanding lace thing. So you've got your mesh, and then after this mesh, you want to right click and say add a note, and then it's either before or after. So after that thing that I selected, I'm adding a note, and I can either type out the note or I can pull up my mylar note and hit OK. So that's what's cool about the managing. Not only can you just simply go, I need a note here, and if this is a one-off and you don't need to save that, then fine. Just right click on here, right click, say after, add a note after this. And this is a custom note that's like blah, 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 blah. And then you say, okay. And so that note gets in, but it's not saved to your managed notes things. But this is where you need the mylar too. And so you right click and you say, add a note after this one, and be like, that's where the Mylar 2 goes. And so you see the idea. And now when you click on your print preview, all your notes are in your thing. And so this is, to me, the Floriani, what did I click on? I wanted to do the print preview. I must have clicked on paste. So those notes have been inserted into there. I guess I should have actually made some embroidery for the second, because there's still artwork, so they're not really showing up. So the second one was maybe like a border. So let's make it a steel stitch border. And then, what's the purpose of the third one? I don't know. Maybe you want to do some kind of like a wavy, motif around it or something like that. And so anyway, so you get the idea, right? That you've made this little kind of funky lace piece and you needed instructions. And so that's why we have this ability to do a custom notes. So again, it's under tools, drop down menu where it says manage sequence notes. And that is specifically where you can see the ones you've already saved and edit them. But at any one point in time, you can click on any shape in a design, right click and say add note. And then it brings up the same box, just without the ability to add new notes. You can, kind of pull from your drop-down list and or add a custom note just to this design. Yeah. So, okay, any questions about that, you guys? Just go ahead and type them in. Otherwise, we'll kind of move on from here. I had no idea we can do this as well. Okay, great. Can you search the notes to find a file? Good question, Joanne. I don't believe so. When they name the software FTCU, they hit right on the head. You can, what did you say? Do anything. Yeah, it is really, at Floriani is called FTCU, Floriani Total Control. Unbelievable, ultimate, universal, whatever you want to call it. I always say it's just for you. But Joanne said, can you search notes? And currently that is not available, but that's a great suggestion that maybe could be somehow worked into the future. A finder, that when, search design notes. Because right now you could use Windows to search by names and all that, just regular Windows browsing capabilities. But it would have to be some kind of a Floriani software tool that would allow you to, search through your, I don't know. I'll put that on a list of good ideas. That was a good idea. Thanks. All right, you guys. So let's move along with today's class. The next topic is the font importer. So the font importer is not about, it's not the same as Lettering Master is what I'm trying to say. Lettering Master is new. Font importer came first. We have, font importer is part of FTCU. Lettering Master is actually a separate software that you can add to FTCU. And so we're not talking about Lettering Master today. I can try and talk about, specifically what's different, but today what we're talking about is the font importer. This is a tool that you would use if you purchased fonts. And that's specifically the point here, is that it's not about creating fonts from your true types like the font importer is. This is about, I went to a website and they had a wonderful embroidery font and I purchased it, but what I really got was the letter A, letter B, letter C, and they were all embroidery files, like whether they were PES or DST or EXP, it doesn't matter, but they have to be files that you already own, and you can, but you don't want to have to find, if you want to type the word dad, you don't want to have to go look for the letter D and look for the letter A. This allows you to kind of map them all together so that you can just type in dad. So here's what you do. If you buy a font from a company and you have a folder that has, and a lot of times the companies do this, they'll actually give you a bunch of folders. It may be a bunch of sizes, like 1 inch, 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches, that kind of thing. And because what we're talking about right now are going to be not Floriani shapes. They're going to be stitches, right? You're going to have a file that's somebody's .dst or somebody's .pes, which is fine. But just know that when you have a PES, what you have are the stitches. And this is where it's different from something like a font Lettering Master, where you actually create a font based upon, true type fonts and shapes. So how this works, it's under the tools, drop down menu, font importer right here. So when I click on the font importer, it brings up a window that you can use to, I guess, import a font. And so the first thing you want to do is to click on the word new font. And so we'll call it FTCU W01 QS04, today's class. And so we're made a font with the name of today's class. Now, where is it? You have to, this is where you're going to select it. This is where you're going to put it. So you got little boxes where the A and the B and the C need to go, kind of like little boxes for every keystroke on your keyboard, basically is what that is. And you want to choose in here the folder. So where it says folder, if there's nothing pre-selected, you click on the little dots and it brings up a little browser. And so you go searching through your computer. I know that on my backup drive, I've got a location where I can easily find. So the first time, or yeah, maybe the first time, one time when I taught this was in workshop number 2, and I think it was class number 9. Yeah, see where it says cross stitch alphabet? So I knew where I had an alphabet, and I'm gonna select that folder and say okay. So I had to pick a folder, and now it's showing me the contents of that folder, and there's my letter A right there. And I could click and drag and bring the letter A onto my workspace, and it asks me if it's okay for A to be my preferred reference letter, and that's fine. The idea is the reference letter kind of helps the software know kind of what the shape of all the letters are going to be, but you can always change that later. But what I can also do to make this a little bit easier is rather than clicking on B and bringing that in and clicking on C, if it's already kind of in order, I can click on the A, scroll down to the bottom, and then find the Z and hold down the shift key and click on that. So it goes, A to Z. And so I've selected all of the letters A to Z, and so I can tell these go to the capital A to Z's. Just click and drag. And it brings in all the letters. Oh, I didn't do that right. So I'm going to do that again because that is now in the wrong place altogether. So let's try this again. Click on the Z, hold down shift on your keyboard and click on the A and tell it A to Z. Sorry, it's just click on the buttons and now it's doing it for me and it's not click and drag. Click and drag is when you want to move them yourself. So if you select them all and you click on A to Z, see how it's now working? The little wheel is spinning and it's basically kind of putting them away for me. And so I'm waiting to see if it's going to put the B in place where the U was. Or if I have to now fix that because I made a little boo-boo, but we'll see what it does. So it's just kind of working away, adding those letters into their spots. And there, so now it's done, and it did. It updated the A and the B and the C. So because I told it A to Z in that order, it just sequenced them all in that order in my thing. There's no lowercase letters that I didn't make any because this was a font that I made using some cross-stitch program that I had. And so I just had these little, I think they're a bunch of PES files or something. And so I've selected them and I've imported them and I can say save. Now, there's an option in here called convert to outlines, and I don't expect that would be a very good option with my cross-stitch font. If you don't know what convert to outlines is, it's a topic that takes quite a bit of really description, and but basically in a kind of sentence, it allows the software to convert your stitches into embroidery shapes that could then be edited. And that's not always successful when you're talking about really ornate letters like cross stitches like this. So not a good idea. Anyway, I usually say not a good idea at all. If you bought the font and they gave you 2-inch size and 3-inch size and 4-inch size, you're better off to not convert to outlines, bring it in and call it the 2-inch, Daniel script 2 inches, Daniel script 4 inches. And when you need to use it at 2 inches, you get the 2-inch size. And if you need to use it at 4 inches, get the 4-inch size. If you need to use it at 3 inches, then you got the choice. Do you get the 2-inch and scale it up to 3, or do you get the 4 and scale it down to 3? The difference is it doesn't generate new stitches. It's going to sort of scale the original ones. Anyway, I've done all I can really do here. I've made a font, given it a name. So I just want to click save to make sure that everything I've done gets updated, and then I can close it. So we just made a font. And if you, anytime you want to use it now, you click on your text tool and you go ahead and start some nice new round text around your apple or whatever it is. And then look in your font list and find by the name that we created. So we called it FTCU today's date and all that. And so there it is right there. And if I click on it, it's going to put in those letters. Now, those were pretty big letters, and so they'll probably appear pretty big on my circle. But now you have the ability to resize them. But when you resize them, because they weren't converted to outlines, what it really does is scales them smaller or bigger. So with a cross stitch font, what it's doing is it's making my crosses closer together. If it was a satin font, it would be making the columns closer together. But it's pretty cool that you can type that out and be like, oh, it needs to say dad, not my text. And click apply. Okay, you guys, so and it works with all the same handles, you know, if you want to use the lettering handles. So that is what Font Importer is all about and how it basically works. Let me take a look and see if anybody's got any questions about what we're talking about. Yeah, no new questions, and so we'll move on from there. You guys maybe have all seen that one before, but the Font Importer is a very cool tool. So remember, that's Font Importer is under the Tools drop-down menu. Font Importer, and when you're importing fonts, it's really meant to be the ones you bought or the ones that are already stitch formats. And it's not the same as, you know, when people talk about creating fonts using Lettering Master. And I won't go through it, but I'm just going to click on the tool under my texts. That's actually this red tool over here. The only reason I have that red tool is because I have activated Lettering Master, and you don't normally have that red tool with any other Floriani, you know, program that you could have activated. So when you get that one up, it's similar idea that you're going to be kind of like filling boxes with letters, only this time your options are either letters that you custom digitized or true type fonts. And it allows you to build a true type font and go in and make edits to it. So that's also what's different, you know, because as you all know, as owners of FTCU, that you can at any time use your font tool to choose the TTF option. And when you use the TTF option, the software will auto-generate those stitches. And as you can see here, some of them may end up with kind of like problems, right? And in that case, you're probably going to end up having to break apart the text and find the letter A and go, what the heck's wrong with you? And I'm probably going to go into shape node and figure out, okay, what was missing that the software couldn't get because it's all out of whack. Maybe I'll try adding another inclination and seeing if that's what's wrong with it, because there's something confused, right? And it's because the software is auto doing it. So there's a divide line here. If I take the divide line off and make the software turn around there, it likes that better. Now it needs a divide line here. I think that's actually what the problem was. It didn't have enough divide lines. So if I come in here and I say, add a split line. And so people often ask me, like, you know, what do you have to do to get the true type letters to work? Well, if you understand how to use the Satin Path tool and how to create or not create split lines and inclinations, you can get it to work. But the cool thing about Lettering Master is, just if you want to know what Lettering Master is, was that if you had made a font out of this true type font and the A was kind of weird like that and you had to fix it, you would save it. You know, the trouble here is if I try and use that true type font again, I'm going to have to fix the A again. So that's really the big difference with Lettering Master, is you can actually create fonts yourself take your true type fonts and create really beautiful embroidery fonts that have been, you know, tailored and edited to have proper results and save them. So Font Importer, different. That's when you're getting into making fonts from your purchased fonts that you maybe collected and just want to be able to use them more easily. And I know a lot of us do go and purchase fonts. And so, okay, that's all good stuff. What's next, Trevor? I'm not quite done with today's class. And so the next two are kind of quick and easy ones, but they're so very valuable. Import and export assets, and then we'll do presets. So they're different. Presets is something and assets is something else. So let's do assets first. So when you are in your software and you look under the tools drop-down menu, notice the options for import and export assets or presets. So let's do export assets. Export makes it easier because when I click on export, it brings up all of the assets in your computer that you've customized. So it won't bring up fonts that came with the software. You're not allowed to export those. But if you made any, you're totally allowed to export them, right? So if I click on fonts, it's going to select them all, unless I click on the select window and go, well, I don't want to, give away all my fonts. Uncheck them all. But I want to scroll through. There's that FTCU W01 QS04 font. Click on that. And then click OK. So that's what I'm sharing. Hoops. Have you ever made a custom hoop? Do you own any custom hoops? Because if you own custom hoops, you can create custom hoop sizes. And then if you want, you can share them. This is, okay. Assets could be used to share these things with your friends, but they could also be used to back up what you've made. Let's just say that you're changing computers and you're going to move your FTCU over to a new computer. You could come in here, and if you're backing up your assets for yourself, then you don't want to do what I did, which is just select the one. You want to say check all and get them all, and then click on hoops. That'll get all your hoops, all your thread charts, all your work. Just basically click on everything you've ever made, or that there is, click on all the options, and if you've made any, they'll get backed up. So if I click on everything and then say okay, I'm going to make a new Floriani asset that's going to be like a backup of everything I've ever made. So it takes a minute to, gather all that stuff together and put it together in a folder. There it is, Fusion Assets. Don't ask me why we always call them Fusion Assets, but you can rename them whatever you want. The date, 6/22/21 at, 1:52 in the afternoon. That's the name of the file. So if I come in here and say tools, import assets, I could select said file, right? You'd have to know where you saved it. They go, if you want to know where under the C menu, under Floriani, under assets. There's all my assets. So if you get an asset file from somebody, you can also pick and choose. You're like, I don't know if I want all their assets, but they gave them to you, right? So then you can go, okay, well, let's look at Trevor's assets. So I'm not going to give you guys all my assets, but I will make some for you guys today. But here's the idea. Select the one that has all my assets, click on open. And now it's going to show me the opposite. You can be like, well, how many fonts did they give me? Oh, all these fonts? Wow, thank you very much. And then you'd be like, I don't want that one. I don't want that one. So you can go uncheck them all or check them all. So I guess you got to check the things you want, right? Yeah. Check everything that you want or uncheck if you don't want. But you can go through and say, well, they gave me some thread charts. Oh, they've got one in here called My 49. I want that one, check that off. So you're kind of like choosing what to import. Check, 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 check. And then say, okay, sorry, at the bottom. Yeah. So you can expand all, collapse all, to make sure that it overwrites if you're like, wanting to make sure you update them or something like that. That's kind of what this is all about. So import and export assets is a cool thing. So what are assets? Anything that you can export under this option. Crazy quilting, symbols, custom shapes, workspaces, thread charts, motif patterns. So if I was going to make one for you guys and I said, well, I'll share a font with you guys, I would uncheck all my fonts and then share the font that we made today, right? So that's the FTCU, the quick start one right there. Say okay to that. Click under thread charts, go in there and get you guys uncheck them all and give you guys the My 48 thread chart. Say okay. What else could I give you guys? Maybe some custom shapes. So you come under your custom shapes and you'd be like, well, are there any cool custom shapes? I don't want to give them all to you. Some of these I didn't even make myself, but you come in here and you're like, well, I'm going to give you the apple with the bite out of it. And I'm going to give you this neat old anchor that I got here. And I'm going to give you the money with the tail and, whatever, maybe the spatula and the fork for summer barbecuing, and the hat and the mustache and whatever. I'm kind of going at random here and just giving you guys a few things. So then we say, okay, so now you got a few custom shapes coming your way. So motif patterns. Select some motif patterns. So now I've got these are all my custom motif patterns, and we're going to play with one of these today. And so I'm going to give you guys Bamboo 3 and say, okay. And I'll show you guys where you can find, where we made these the first time around. But yeah, color play themes, right? We just made one of those today. So let's find that. There it is right there. Uncheck everything. That was today's color play theme. And so you get the idea, right? And when you go to import these, if you're like, I don't want your color play theme, Trevor, then don't bring them in. You can just pick and choose my font or whatever you want. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the idea. I'm going to say, okay, and it's going to make a little asset file, and I will plan to share that one with you guys later, right? So, okay. So that's assets. So we understand now, Trevor, what assets are, and that we can import them and that we can export them. So then what was the other thing that you had? Tools, and then it was, tools, and then import and export presets. What's a preset? So as an example, let's take the applique shape that we made earlier. And if I wanted to make it a run stitch, I would click over here. So now instead of an applique, it's a single run line. Now, if I right click on the run stitch, notice where it says backstitch. Now it's a backstitch, and that was a preset of the run line, and everybody will have the backstitch because it comes with the software. However, I've got another one called 4mm run. That one didn't come with the software. And I got another one called 12 run. So 4mm run, if I select that, goes back to a single run line, but it's got a 4mm length already by default. So if you find, let's just say, for example, that you make a lot of motif lines and you like to do them in a specific way where you, let's do multiples. Let's do something unique. So I click on multiple and I come here and I've got, so let's do one of these, and then one of these, and then one of these, and say, okay. And so apply. And so notice that I've got a cool thing, the theme going on that does one of these, and one of those, whatever it all was that I added in there. And so now it's like a custom one that you could make it over and over. But if you wanted to use it again, you come down to your tool and you right, instead of left clicking like normal, you right click. And these are all the preset ones that I've already made, but I could say save preset. And also remove if you want to get rid of some of those ones after you make them. But now I'm going to call it the FTCU W01 QS04 preset. Okay. There. So we made one. And now, anytime you've got a line, let's just make this back to a piece of artwork again. So there's no, oh, that's applique here. Make it artwork. So now it's right back to a vector line again. Any line you've got, instead of left clicking, if you left click on your motif fill, you get the basic default motif line. But if you right click, you can choose your presets. And we made one today that had a little combo stitch going on. So that's what a preset is. You can make them. You'll notice a lot of mine, like if I click on here, if I right click over top of the motif fill, I've got different ones that I've made over the, different times. And so you can try one, making one of these little fancy motif fills with the Trevor, with your TC in there. See, it's got my little initials repeated in the background. So that's a custom motif background that I made and then saved it as a preset so that I didn't have to go looking for it every time. So that's what's cool. So now if you make a bunch of presets, and again, if you're moving computers or you're going to back up your computer, you just want to make sure that these things don't get lost, you can do this at any time before you're updating your software. Go ahead, export your assets and export your presets. So again, export presets gives me all the presets I've ever made, tells me kind of which tool they go with. I can go through a whole list of them, right? These are all my run stitch presets. These are all my steel stitch presets. And if you don't want them, just uncheck them all. If you want them all, check them all off. If you want, you can hold your control key down and uncheck at random, whichever ones you don't want. And then when you say export, you get a whole set of presets. And so that's kind of what the last two topics were. I'm not quite done with class though, but that was our last two topics, import and export. So I saved two more topics for today's class, and they get a little bit more in depth, a little bit more along the kind of fun lines that I really like to do, which is we're going to do stitch editing, and then we're going to move into saving our own custom motifs. Yeah, and we'll talk about how we do that, and then I'll answer questions and all that. So let me just pop up the questions box and see any questions to this point. When I open Floriani on my C drive, my only folder is designs. Should I have more? Well, if you use your Floriani software to create an asset, I'm pretty sure it will make a folder called assets and put it in it. I don't believe I did that. I'm pretty sure. So if you don't have one called assets, it kind of just says to me you've never made one. But I would say go ahead and try that and let me know for certain. But that's where they get saved too. Now, when I'm in my thing and I want to save an asset, I go tools and export assets, and then if I choose whatever symbols and then say okay, it brings up the box, like the window where it's default saves it to that location. And at that point, what I can do is move it or copy it. But so that, to me, I think that's where they always go. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding, is that so if you don't have that folder, like if you look under your C and designs, so C and Floriani, sorry, I've got designs, I've got asset, Total Quilter. Well, you won't have Total Quilter unless you purchase Total Quilter. And this is because I've probably been making my Total Quilter. This is where my Trevor's blocks go, under Total Quilter. Yeah, that's what that is. So yeah, but generally speaking, under C, you should have designs. And again, that comes from downloading the free monthly designs, because technically that folder doesn't exist in the beginning. But if you install the software and you export assets, I'm pretty sure it'll make that folder and automatically save your stuff into it. And then you will have that folder on your computer. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. So stitch editing. Oh my goodness. So this is one that really, we could spend an hour and really dig into, but just to kind of introduce, over on the left of your toolbar, your main toolbar, I want to point out that the one that's the fifth one down says stitch, the stitch tool. And when you depress it, it changes your software quite drastically. So when I click on it, notice that a lot of the functions on the software kind of are changed a little bit. They're either dim or gray because I can't use them right now. Notice that my color bar, my slow redraw at the top went away, and now I have a new one down at the bottom. And notice that I no longer am using the select tool. It's colored orange is the stitch tool. We're in what I like to call stitch mode. And when you're in stitch mode, you can edit stitches. So if this is what's on your screen and you zoom in on your design and you don't like anything, you can select an individual stitch. You can see the stitches as you highlight around. Notice here, let me turn off 3D. Notice how it puts a little black dot on the ones that there are there. So I can see what stitches there are. I can click to move them to new places. I can, delete on my keyboard to get rid of them. Now, here's the thing. When you edit stitches, that's all fine and dandy, right? You can change the design very easily. But also remember that what we really have here, and I'm just going to leave stitch mode, and I'm going to click on the select tool. Now, my stitch edits are still there. So where's the one? There's the T that has the missing curly Q, right? The C has it, the T doesn't, right there. The thing is now, if I select this shape and I make a change to it, so let's change the size of the motif from 15 to 20, then it'll regenerate the stitches, and any of those stitch edits that we made are totally gone, right? All the T's are back to having all their pieces again. So you need to know, and I will say that at some point, I hope to be able to add like a warning or something that if you've made stitch edits to a shape, that when you go to regenerate the stitches, that it might warn you that that you would lose those stitch edits if you went forward. Because there is a way to not lose them, and that's to kind of like lock the stitches, as it's called preserve as stitches. So again, click on stitch edit and go in and edit your stitches. Like you can also select them at random, like see how I just selected all those stitches by dragging a box around them? Delete. There's also, notice under the tool, if I fly it open, there's like an option for an ellipse. And so if you wanted to get out a specific area, you could click on ellipse select, and then like kind of click and drag a box and say, well, I'm going to try and take this letter C out. See how I got all that and delete it. So the stitch gets from the end of the T and just bunk the next beginning, and I just deleted everything in between that area. So you can do that, sure. But remember, it'll all come back again if you regenerate the stitches. Now, if you never want that to happen, select the segment and right click and say preserve as stitches. So stitches are stitches. Right now, what we have is an ellipse with a motif fill with a custom motif pattern. If we say preserve as stitches, we're changing that. We're like saying goodbye to the shape. So watch, preserve as stitches. So now when I look on the right-hand side, it says stitches. There's no shape. There's no changing the motif fill anymore. All you can do with stitches is, edit the stitches more, right? But you'll never, now you can resize the shape and you'll never lose the editing that you made in the stitches. So just know that. So that's what stitch, and I'm not going to get too much further into stitch editing today. Just know that it's a really powerful part of the program. It allows you to get at the actual stitches you're going to sew and make very minute changes to them, and or easily take your lasso tool and just lasso around an area and be like, I don't want that curly Q anyway. Gone. Easy peasy editing for the designs that you want to make small changes to. So, but the reason I wanted to talk about stitch editing today was because you can't do the next topic without understanding how to do stitch editing. And that is how to create a custom motif. And so I want to remind you guys of the class FTCU workshop number 1, class number 11. It was a while ago. I'll give you that. But this tool has not really changed since then. And we really went in depth in that class on it. These were the class sides. That's when we learned about the star dot, my favorite motif. And I made a 5-pointed star and showed you guys how to use it as the smallest little white dot to put a shine on a little animal's eyeball. But we also turned that very same dot into a motif and then digitized designs with it. And we did this cool Mayan sun with star dots, and it turns into like beadwork. It kind of looks like, First Nations beadwork or Mayan beadwork. And this one was from a Métis kind of photograph. And so it's a star dot. And so what it is a custom motif applied along a line, a little star. Pretty cool, hey? Then we did in that same class, we did Sashiko inspired designs, and we used the motif patterns to create a hexie, to create a circles, to create a bamboo leaves, to create, that's the bamboo leaves, to create the diamond motif fill, the double diamond, and let's see, the diamond, the double diamond, and how to inset them into a flower. It was a really great class, one of my favorites. And nothing's changed even since then. And then we introduced the motif challenge. So don't forget about FTCU workshop number 1, class number 12, where you got to see all the cool custom motifs that all the other people made. I remember somebody, I think it was Dale, made a football motif. And I think it was Shanae made the Seattle Space Needle motif. So today I thought I'd show you guys about making motifs. And that's the last topic for today is how to create your own custom motifs, like my little TC background here. And notice if I just start a new empty workspace. Okay, so this is where I think a lot of people get into it, is they draw something that they want to make into a motif. So they draw their favoriteest thing ever, and they're like, oh my God, I've got to save that. It'll be such a great motif. And so they create it and they make it a run stitch. You know, and then when it's a run stitch, you could be like, what would this look like as a motif? It starts here and it ends there. And so if I copied it and placed it along a line, I would need to line up the start point and the end point kind of like that, you know, and it would repeat along my line, and it would go over and over and over along that line and make as many as you want. If I did it as a fill, well, then it would do a row and then come back and do another row that went underneath it like this. So that line that we made could be a cool new motif. Maybe not my best work, but it could be. So they select it and they're like, I know it's under the tools drop-down menu. And so they come and you come down to say motif pattern editor, and it's like, but it won't let me save it. What am I doing wrong? And the answer is, when you want to make a motif, you don't select a shape, you select stitches. So motifs are not based upon segments of artwork, they're based upon the stitches. And so what you need to do is you need to go into stitch mode and select all those stitches. Now that you have stitches selected, try Tools, Motif Pattern Editor, Save Motif Pattern. There it is. And save. Now, what are you going to call it? I don't know. FTCU W01 QS04 and say save. So now, if I make a line that goes like that, and then I select it, and I choose to make it a motif run line, I can come to my motif pattern editor and scroll through. Now it's alphanumericals, so it's going to be under F, which comes after, so it's letters then numbers. So after the or numbers then letters, so there's your A's and B's and C's, D's and E's, now F's. So they had some other, so the yellow ones are the built-in ones and the red ones are the ones that I made. So if you make your own, they'll be red, not green. And so I'm looking for FTCU. It's kind of interlaced with a bunch of, because we have a bunch of F patterns in the software. So that's just the awkward part of it. But there it is, right? FTCU 0104, blah, blah, blah. Click on that and click apply. Now, notice it's very small. So you need to adjust the pattern size to the size that, you know, makes it appropriate to what you actually designed. So there you have it, your own custom squiggle, right? I don't know why you made it, Trevor, but I did. I made this little squiggly line. So in the class, workshop 1, so let me see if I can find this on my backup drive. I have my FTC workshop No, I'm going to go into my backup, my old documents folder where I've got all my workshop classes, and it's class 11. So I got all these great designs I can look at. So where is the one that was that's diamonds 2, that's diamonds, that's circles, there's the hexy, there's my bamboo. Yeah, bamboo. Oh, there's the WAF. Yeah, that's the WAF. Sashiku bamboo with the flower. So really kind of a cool design. So we have a rectangle that has a sashiko flower and a motif pattern that goes around it. Pretty neat, hey? It made for really beautiful, did I close those other ones? Are they still here? Stitch outs. Yeah, this is the one. Well, those are the double. They were all kind of the same. Where's the bamboo? There, bamboo. So this is the design that I opened up. So what we're talking about is how do you create that bamboo pattern? Now, I was looking at it going, the way I made it, it makes bamboo, and then the second row doesn't have the, the little kind of whatever that is, extra detail there. So I want to show you how I could make a new one that would put it in there. So let's look at that. So here's the unique thing. If you have a motif, you go to Tools and you go to Motif Pattern Editor and say Load. One of the best ways to learn about them is to see the ones that are already made, and you can load any one that's in your software and edit it to make, if there's one that's close but not quite, find it and edit it. So what I'm looking for in here is the one that says bamboo or something, right? I've got one that I made that was like backstitch bamboo 3. See it? So I'm going to open it up. This is the one that I've already made and used in this design that you're looking at. And so to make it, what I just told you was that you would go into stitch mode and you would, whoops, that's I'm using the lasso, not the rectangle. You would lasso select, and then you would do Tools and create, so Motif Pattern Editor, and save the motif pattern. All right, so same dealio. Here, let's do this. I'm going to get rid of the yellow altogether and just leave the little blue thing that we just opened up so you can see where it starts sewing there on the left. And it goes down around the bottom, over to the other side. It does those two little extra details, then the top of the bamboo. Now, it needs to return to the other side, so it goes down along the bottom line again and finishing there. So that little line that we made starts on the left and finishes on the right. Therefore, if you were to copy it and place it along a line, the next starting point would match up with the previous ending point, and you would get a continuous flowing line. And so that's kind of the trick of learning to make motifs, is kind of learning to create them to start on one side and finish on the other like that. Now, the trick that I was saying was maybe if I want the second line to also have some detail like this. Here, let's do this. Copy it and then bring it down so that what I'm saying is, where would that be? It would be like here, right? See, let's just say that, so I want another detail that's like right there. Let's just color it red so it's not in my way. So the blue one, here's what I'm going to do, and this, just follow me along. I'm going to click on the Stitch Edit tool. And I'm going to find the blue stitch that's coming right there. And then I'm going to go backwards. See how this little tool that comes, it has little arrows, and I can use them to backwards, back, one stitch. Now I'm right there. And right now I'm going to right click and say insert before, or how about after? So after that stitch, we're going to go, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and go, and I can kind of see the other stitches, right? One there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, 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 there. Here, now, other one, the other detail, there. So I'm creating a new motif that'll have bamboo details on each row. So notice when I do all that and then right click to stop drawing. So if I get rid of that red piece now, right, that was just there as like a temporary thing. So now look, I've made this new one. Where does it start sewing? Same as always, down to the bottom. Detail, detail, up, detail, detail, around, and back over again. So let's try taking this one, use our stitch edit to select all the stitches and go Tools, Motif Pattern Editor, and Save Motif Pattern. See what it's doing? So now when I say save, it'll be BAMMBOO, bamboo dash, I guess I'll call this one 3 or 4. 3. I already had a 3. 4. And hit save. So guys, now we've made a new motif pattern that if you, for example, have just a big shape and you select it and you click on your motif tool, you're going to get the default, one that you always get. But now you can scroll through and going alphanumerically, you're looking for the letter B's and you're looking for bamboo 4 and click apply. Bingo. Now, they're pretty small because they came in at the default at the size of 3, which is inaccurate. So I want to come in here and increase that size. There's something confused there. I may be able to make that, have that improved, make it smarter. But the idea is I had to set the size. And now if I want, I can make it 20 and get, bigger ones, or 10 and get smaller ones. So you guys, that is how you can create your own custom motifs. It was a kind of a roundabout class. I'm just taking a look here. Thank you, Veronica. She's left, but she loved the last part. If I create a motif, can I use it as a quilting motif and export to use on my long arm? So there are long arm. I can save the long arm format. The answer is yes. I can create a motif and then use it along a line or in a shape and then save it to a long arm format. The only thing is FTCU does not actually come with the long arm formats. To get the long arm formats, you need to have either Sketch-A-Stitch. If you own Sketch-A-Stitch, that adds the long arm formats to FTCU. Total Quilter adds the long arm formats to FTCU, or My Design Album gives you the long arm formats, but in its own, in its own over in that program. But yeah, Sketch-A-Stitch is probably the one that would get it. It would be the least expensive. That is also kind of a cool tool and a nice thing to add to FTCU is Sketch-A-Stitch. So I would go with Sketch-A-Stitch. Total Quilter is quite in depth, and unless you really want to go with the aptly quilting portions of it, it's hard to justify is what I mean. So ask me more about that on another occasion. But that was a good question. Yeah, did I get to all of the questions? I think there are some assets that can be downloaded from the R&K Club. Kim, you could be right. I think at one point in time there may have been an update that DJ had some assets. I'm not even sure I know exactly where they are, but I think I can look for those and see if I can find about that. If I create a motif, can I use it as a quilting motif? I asked someone, I answered already. Yeah. Great. I think I got to all of the questions, but the text is really small and sometimes I just divide right over one. Yeah. Veronica said divide line question mark. Is that a splitting? So yeah, no, it's not like splitting the design. And Veronica, if you've left anyways, but if you hadn't left or if you watch this again, what you want to know is that you need to rewatch Quick Start class number 2, where we go through the Satin Path tool and we explain what inclinations are and what divide lines are and how very important that is to be able to take power over your true type fonts that were automatically digitized. Anyway, you guys, fun class today. Something I left out, and I'm just going to squeeze it in, but I'm not really kind of fully prepared to talk about it. And that is also under your tools drop-down menu. Just a quick shout out to the fancy pattern editor and the standard pattern editor. So these are also things that you can do, like creating a motif pattern. You can create a fancy pattern. With the fancy pattern, that's the same thing. Load a fancy pattern, save a fancy pattern. If I load a fancy pattern, I can see what they look like, and you'll kind of get the idea of what they turn out like when you stitch them out, right? Because remember that the fancy patterns are fully filled in, right? So this one here, if I actually took this bamboo and made it a fancy fill and then found that pattern that was like that double chevron, it was, I think this one is what so the the angles you see here may not be the exact same one that's on my screen, but you get the idea. It's pretty close, right? So to create a fancy pattern is really about creating vector artwork that is like custom embossing lines. So we'll talk about that, and we'll leave that for another day to try to create some new ones. But just to let you know, you can create them, and that's how under your tools drop-down matter, fancy pattern editor. So again, if you draw, and notice that it won't, to save them, what you have to actually select is artwork, not stitches, artwork. When you select artwork, you can go under tools and fancy pattern editor and save them. So fancy patterns are actually vector files that tell the software how to slice up a block, basically. And then the last one, and this is really quite interesting, is the standard pattern editor. And just look how interesting this one is. So here's pattern number 001 is based on 6 offsets, 25, 70, 100, and then 25, 75 again. And try another one, right? 02 is 4, 100, 50, 150. So it's really, every other row is kind of repeating like that. And you can try making your own. So what's pattern 1? Oh, 4, 25, 50, 75, and 0. So it creates kind of like a diamond. Can you see that there? And so that's what's really unique about this, is you can actually try and move these points and say, wow, what if I did one that was like, row 1 and row 2 were tight together, and then row 3 and row 4 were tight together like that. And what would that pattern end up turning out like? And so you can make your own cool patterns and then save them. Reset pattern 1 to the way it was, or create your own new ones and then save them. So that's one of the cool things about it. Yeah. And this is one that I need to take a little more time and really dig in and play with. But so I thought I would quickly show them for the end of class to kind of fit them in as things that kind of go with today's class, really. Do I have any news for you guys for the future? Well, I didn't pick any new class dates, but I am planning on doing some new classes. This class is part of workshop number 1, and it's actually the 6th class that we added in 2021 for workshop number 1. And so I think if I add any more classes yet this year, I'll probably add them to workshop 2 or workshop 3. And so if you're only a member of workshop 1, I hope you've enjoyed all the new classes this year. And for all the people that are members of workshop 2, you should hear from me again in the next coming weeks. I'm going to work out a few more classes for you guys. And so I'll sort of reset my class list to the people that are members of Workshop 2 and then 3, and we'll do a few more classes this year. So that's my plan. I didn't make the dates out yet. I was sort of just unsure about some of my summertime plans. And so I'll get organized and plan some new class dates for you guys. But in the meantime, I sure hope you guys enjoyed today's class. It was nice to see everybody, and thank you so very much. Joanne's asking how can she get 2 or 3. Those are purchased. So just like Workshop 1, you get them from Floriani. Any Floriani dealer can get them for you. They are on sale right now for $99. So don't let anybody try and charge you more than that. They might look it up and go, oh, it's supposed to be, $199 or something like that. But I know that in all the virtual classes we've run this last few months, they've been on in the virtual classes on sale at $99. So if you need any help on how to do that, let me know, and I can always help you guys with how to purchase them. But in the meantime, yeah, that's the idea. Is just like Workshop 1, you're meant to purchase the DVD. And then just like always, you visit my website and you register with me. So inside of the DVD case is your activation code for the workshops. And when you activate them, I send you all the past classes. And so kind of like I showed at the beginning, Workshop 2 has a series of classes. Workshop 3 has a series of classes. And if you get 1, 2, and 3, I will also send you all of the Fusion classes. And if you're missing any of that or just confusional in general, please send me an email and I will help you guys figure it all out. So thanks, Lucinda, and thanks, Rosemary, and thanks, Joanne, and Suzanne, and Lisa, and everybody who's chatting to me right now. I enjoyed it. Rosemary said it was her first webinar. Oh my goodness, Rosemary, welcome. You want to catch Quick Start 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those 4 are really great places to start. And then beyond that, there's a lot of great ways to go. Tons of past classes to watch and new ones to look forward to, you guys. So thanks everybody for being a member of Workshop number 1. I think I'll let you guys go for today. And so until next time, have a wonderful day. Thank you so very much for coming, and bye for now.